All right, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, we were planning on doing both the Clintons together. We were going to go through both, but it turns out that these are far longer than we thought. The first one you said was the one that we're covering today, which is the Wicked Witch. I mean, Hillary, is like 4.5 hours. So he pared that down significantly. But one of the problems that he ran into when he was doing this, and once again, thank you for doing this, is they didn't release the transcripts.
Nope, they still haven't.
They still haven't released the transcripts. So he had to go through and actually watch the entirety of it and try to take notes, and without knowing who's speaking or whose turn it is or where this is coming from. So it's a lot. We're not able to provide you the speakers' names or any of that in most cases.
Some cases you can tell.
Some cases you can easily tell who it is, but the camera is focused on her
the whole time,
the entire time. So unlike some of the other hearings where we've covered where the camera shifts and it shows who's asking the question, in this case, sometimes we just don't know. So we're having to break them up, and we're going to do her today, and then hopefully if everything works out, we will have her or his Saturday is the plan, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're gonna jump off the deep end, and we're gonna show you right here.
We'll enter now as Majority Exhibit 12. This will be a letter from Mr. Epstein's attorneys. I will give you a second for it to be passed out. This is a letter dated July 6, 2007. It is from Gerald B. Lefcourt. He was an attorney for Mr. Epstein. He sent this to the prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida. That would be Sloman, Minchell, Lori, and Villafania. And I will direct your attention to page 21. That top paragraph on page 21, it says, quote, Mr. Epstein was part of the original group that conceived the Clinton Global Initiative, which is described as a project bringing together a community of global leaders to devise and implement innovative solutions to some of the world's most pressing challenges. Again, is it possible that Mr. Epstein played a role in crafting CGI?
I have no idea what he did or what he said he did, and I have no way to testify to the veracity of either.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, her name's just on the door. She has no idea about what Clinton Global Initiative actually did or how it was founded or who was involved. It's just her name. Really? But, all right. This has been, I'm sure you guys have seen some viral clips out there with some spicy excerpts from this, but I wanted to do a little more. I wanted to learn whether there was some actual criminal behavior that happened. Look, we all know that the Clintons knew Epstein. Obviously, Bill flew on the plane many times. Ghislaine Maxwell was at Chelsea's wedding. There are pictures all over. I was curious as to whether she could explain any of that and how she would. And as we've come to expect from not just Hillary, but Bill as well, they obviously are not going to be honest. Often it is the unspoken things that really shine through. So we're gonna jump right into her swearing in, and then we'll get on track. I just wanted to show you guys that because I find it very, very interesting that Jeffrey Epstein's name has become synonymous with pedophile, honeypot, you name it. And for him to have had any role, even if it's just a role he claimed in setting up an organization that has been plagued by appropriation, misuse claims, mass corruption is very, very interesting. All right, I'm going to shut up, and here we go.
Can the court reporter please swear in the witness?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this deposition will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do you have any other questions before we begin?
Yes, I have an opening statement that I would like to deliver before we begin. Mr. Chairman, ranking member, members of the committee.
Oh, yeah, we go right into it. Okay. Here we go.
As a former United States Senator, I have respect for legislative oversight, and I expect its exercise, as do the American people, to be principled and fearless in pursuit of truth and accountability. As we all know, however, too often congressional investigations are partisan political theater, which is an abdication of duty and an insult to the American people. This committee justified its subpoena to me based on its assumption that I have information regarding the investigations into the criminal activities of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Let me be as clear as I can. I do not. As I stated in my sworn declaration on January 13th, I had no idea about their criminal activities. I do not recall ever encountering Mr. Epstein.
Genuine question for all you guys out there. And I know there are a few Democrats that watch my show. Realistically, do you believe her? Do you believe that she had no idea about any of the criminal activities?
I never flew on his plane or visited his island, homes, or offices. I have nothing to add to that. Like every decent person, I've been horrified by what we have learned about their crimes. It's unfathomable that Mr. Epstein initially got a slap on the wrist in 2008, which allowed him to continue his predatory practices for another decade. Mr. Chairman, your investigation is supposed to be assessing the federal government's handling of the investigations and prosecutions of Epstein and his crimes. You subpoenaed 8 law enforcement officials, all of whom ran the Department of Justice or directed the FBI when Epstein's crimes were investigated and prosecuted. Of those 8, only 1 appeared before the committee. 5 of the 6 former attorneys general were allowed to submit brief statements stating they had no information to provide. You have held 0 public hearings, refused to allow the media to attend them, including today, despite espousing the need for transparency on dozens of occasions. You have made little effort to call the people who show up most prominently in the Epstein files. And when you did, not a single Republican member showed up for Les Wexner's deposition. This institutional failure is designed to protect one political party and one public official, rather than to seek truth and justice for the victims and survivors, as well as inform the public who want to get to the bottom of this matter. My heart breaks for the survivors, and I am furious on their behalf. I have spent my life advocating for women and girls. I have worked hard to stop the terrible abuses so many women and girls face here and around the world, including human trafficking, forced labor, domestic violence, and sexual slavery. For too long, these have been largely invisible crimes or not treated as crimes at all. But the survivors are real and they are entitled to justice. In Southeast Asia, I met girls as young as 12 years old who had been forced into prostitution and raped repeatedly. Some were dying of AIDS. In Eastern Europe, I met mothers who told me how they lost their daughters to trafficking and did not know where to turn. In settings around the world, I met survivors trying to rebuild their lives and help rescue others with little support from people in power who too often turned a blind eye and a cold shoulder. If you are new to this issue, let me tell you, Jeffrey Epstein was a heinous individual, but he's far from alone. This is not a...
Is that how you pronounce that word? I thought it was heinous.
That's what I thought.
Of course, I mean, maybe that's just from watching Law and Order SVU, these heinous crimes, you know. But I genuinely thought that's how it was pronounced. I kind of want to look. All right, I'm not going to get derailed. My ADD is...
one-off tabloid sensation or political scandal. It is a global scourge with an unimaginable human toll. My work combating sex trafficking goes back to my days as First Lady. I worked to pass the first federal legislation against trafficking and was proud that my husband signed the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, which increased support for survivors and gave prosecutors better tools for going after traffickers. As Secretary of State, I appointed a former federal prosecutor, Lucy DeBaca, to ramp up our global anti-trafficking efforts. I oversaw nearly 170 anti-trafficking programs in 70 nations and directly pressed foreign leaders to crack down on trafficking networks in their countries. Every year, we published a global report to shine a light on abuses. The findings of those reports triggered sanctions on countries failing to make progress, so they became a powerful diplomatic tool to drive concrete action. I insisted that the United States be included in the report for the first time ever in 2011, because we must hold ourselves not just to the same standard as the rest of the world, but to an even higher one. Sex trafficking and modern slavery should have no place in America. None. Infuriatingly, the Trump administration gutted the Trafficking in Persons Office at the State Department, cutting more than 70% of the career civil and foreign service experts who worked so hard to prevent trafficking crimes. The annual trafficking report required by law was delayed for months. The message from the Trump administration to the American people and the world could not be clearer. Combating human trafficking is no longer an American priority under the Trump White House. That's a tragedy, it's a scandal, and it deserves vigorous investigation and...
That is ridiculous to say. All the people that Trump has been saving.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, let's briefly touch on this. One of the things that a lot of people don't understand is, okay, yeah, there were people that were cut. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but 99% of the problems that we experienced during the first Trump administration and now this administration are because of career bureaucrats that don't want their power gone. They don't want. And I got bad news for you, Hillary. Obviously, whatever was in place wasn't working, because Epstein and people like him are all over, and they are still predators, and they are still preying. That was the word I was looking for. They're still preying on innocent people. So maybe, just maybe, this is what's needed. Now, me personally, I don't know all of the ins and outs of the stats and this, but if you pay attention to what the Department of Justice is doing around the world right now, but specifically certain areas in the United States, they are arresting countless human trafficking rings, pedophiles, these people that are kidnapping young girls, leading them in with photo shoots and stuff like that, and then trafficking them. They are cracking down on all of that, because this has been an ongoing corruption issue forever. I mean, this predates. Look, people say, oh, it's this president's fault, it's this administration's fault. This stuff goes way, way, way back. Way back. Let her keep
oversight.
Take another minute.
A committee
less than that. Yeah, we're almost done with.
endeavoring to stopping human trafficking would seek to understand What specific steps are needed to fix a legal system that allowed Epstein to get away with his crimes? A committee run by elected officials with a commitment to transparency would ensure the full release of all the files. It would ensure that the lawful redactions of those files protected the victims and survivors, not powerful men and political allies. It would get to the bottom of reports that DOJ withheld FBI interviews in which a survivor accuses President Trump of crimes. It would subpoena anyone who asked on which night there would be the wildest party on Epstein's island.
Okay. We get it. It's all Trump's fault. Forget about the times that my husband flew on the plane, some random anonymous individual made claims against Trump, so investigate him. I don't know if you guys paid attention to the files. I know there's a big divide here. First of all, I'm not going and read them all. I'm not. I would advise you not to. There's some horrific ass stuff in there. I'm just going to say, I knew about all this shit back in 2016, 2017. All these crazy ass allegations, all the disgusting stuff, the conspiracies, a lot of us did. And we did our own digging into things, and we learned the horrific truth about this stuff. I would advise you not to go and start willy-nilly reading all this stuff. It will hurt your soul. I'm just telling you, the stuff in these files are just ungodly. That said, you've got those people on the left that are going to take little excerpts and say, oh, look. And you have the same thing on the right. They're going to take little excerpts and they're going to say, look. The bottom line is both sides have people that are corrupt as hell. Both sides have people that are mentioned repeatedly in there. I am all for just resetting, man. Just taking it all down. Boom. Start over. Get them all. Perp walk every single person that's been not that's just mentioned, because Elvis was in the files. Let's be clear about that. Just because your name is in there doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Elvis? Really? Like, it's kind of hard for him to have gone to the island, right? But if there is credible evidence that someone was involved with these sick, disgusting people, I don't care what their political party is. I don't care who they gave money to. Public execution. And I said this before. We should do a pay-per-view, right? We should collect all the money for it. Should go to the survivors' families, the victims' families. The victims themselves, but if they're not around anymore, Virginia Guffrey, for example, they're survivors. That's just my opinion. Take that for what it is. So we're going to jump ahead a little bit to the 26-minute mark.
Of names. The question can be answered yes or no. If you do indicate yes to any individual, I will come back and revisit that at the end. The question is, have you ever communicated with any of the following people relating to Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell?
Okay.
Richard Kahn.
Simple question.
No.
Darren N. Dyke.
No.
Sarah Kellen.
No.
Doug Band.
Not that I recall.
That's what I did too.
Hold on. Okay,
Let's
point out an interesting dynamic. No, not that I recall. Why the change?
Lawrence Summers.
No.
Huma Abedin.
Have I ever talked to her about this in preparation for this hearing? I have.
Outside of that,
Not that I recall.
What? How can you say you didn't have any contact with Huma Abedin? Okay, you know what? Like, of all the other shit, you can deny all kinds of stuff, right?
Not with Huma, yeah.
Come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
everybody knows. If you don't know who Huma Abedin is, look it up. Some of you may be young. You may be, before or after, I should say. She might be before your time. Look it up. Anthony Weiner, I'm sure you've heard the name. His wife.
Ex-wife.
Ex-wife, yeah. But look up wife at the time, right? Or were they already divorced?
When
she worked for Hillary and Hillary was Secretary of State. Anyway, like, you just lost all credibility, in my opinion. Like, all credibility. And then she's trying to say, "Oh, I talked to her recently," but before that, no. Hold on. Let me try to play devil's advocate just for a moment. In relation to the Epstein thing, maybe that's like asking somebody, "Have you ever smoked pot?" And in their brain, they're thinking, "Oh, I've never smoked a pot." Like, and they can say no and pass a lie detector test. I mean,
it's Hillary.
Come on, though. Huma Abedin, really? That's what hear the silence.
Noam Chomsky.
No.
Leslie Groff.
No.
Nadia Marcinkova.
No.
I don't know who they are.
No, I don't either. Who are
John Luke Brunel.
No.
I know who that is.
I don't know most of these people. Should I tell you that I know who they are, or just tell you I never talked to them?
Just so you never talked to him, it's fine. Alan Dershowitz.
No.
Kathy Rumler.
No.
Bill Richardson.
No.
George Mitchell.
No.
Yeah, they're going to go through a whole bunch of names, and she just keeps saying no, no, no. But like I said, she lost all credibility when the name was Huma Abedin, and she tries to qualify it by saying, "Well, yeah, I just talked to her, but before that, no." Come on, bruh. Do you think we should keep going with all the names, or move on? Because this really sums it up. Yeah. So okay, so okay.
Is there anyone that you had a conversation with about Ghislaine Maxwell?
Oh, I'm sure I've talked about Ghislaine Maxwell, and especially in preparation for this hearing.
And outside of conversations with your counsel, what did you talk about Miss Maxwell?
I don't recall any conversations about Miss Maxwell, but I knew her casually, so I can't tell you that I never had a conversation that mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell's name, because I don't recall that.
So casually, in fact, that she had a premier spot at Chelsea's wedding.
Understood. And you say that you knew Miss Maxwell casually. What does that mean?
Just what I said. I knew her primarily as someone who dated someone that I knew.
And who was that individual?
Ted Waite.
I'm not sure who that is.
And who is Ted Waite?
Ted Waite was a successful, as I recall, software developer.
You guys are going to have to look that one up yourselves. I'm not going to stop this to dig.
Roughly, when would the first time Miss Maxwell would have come up in relation to Mr. Waite?
I don't recall, but, perhaps sometime around 2010, because he was invited to my daughter's wedding and she was his guest.
So she's claiming that Ted Waite was the invited and Ghislaine was his plus one. I don't know if I believe that.
It's hard to know anything she's saying.
Right.
Have you ever spoken with Miss Maxwell personally yourself?
I'm sure I have, yes.
Did you estimate on how many occasions?
But not Huma Abedin.
No. Yeah.
What? What?
She was your
Not
assistant.
many. I didn't see her very often.
Right. Okay. All right. All right. 3749 is our next one. Oh, Jesus. Ooh, that's close. Look at that.
And just to make clear for the record, have you ever met Jeffrey Epstein?
I do not recall ever meeting Jeffrey Epstein. In preparation for this hearing, I was told that he attended an event at the White House that was put on by the White House Historical Association.
He visited the White. As a matter of fact, guys, he visited the White House during the Clinton administration. Didn't they say? How many times did you
I want to
see?
say 18.
Yeah, it was
Like
at
18.
least 8. I distinctly remember at least there was an 8 in there.
I think it was 18.
I think it was 18, but at least 8 times.
I think it comes up in the hearing.
It probably does, but guys, come on. And you never, bruh, really?
But I have no recollection of that.
I'm surprised she hasn't said what difference does it make. Okay, let's see. So we're going to jump ahead just a little bit. And it's the clip from the beginning. You know what? You guys saw it. They claim, or at least Jeffrey Epstein claimed, that he had a role in creating Clinton Global Initiative. You know, this
The Clinton Foundation.
the Clinton Foundation, guys. That's what it is. It started as this and went to that, and they raked in money. Conveniently timed donations happened, and certain legislative things happened either right before or right after these large donations were made. Sure, it was pure coincidence, of course. We can infer that she's going to say, "Oh, I don't know," because that's been her go-to. I don't know Huma Abedin. I don't know who helped set up Clinton Global Initiative. My name's just on the door. This is some of the most. Anyway, we're actually going to jump ahead a little bit. You guys got the gist from that. They handed her the document, and she denied everything in relation to it, of course. So the lady who doesn't know her personal assistant
Yeah.
is says here
The fundraiser to support my friend Neil Lowy.
here we go.
All right.
Excuse me, can I interrupt?
I have
There are
another.
photos that are being released.
Okay, yeah, let's talk briefly about these photos. So apparently
Representative Boebert.
Representative Boebert sent some photos out on her social media. People picked them up, and like the left lost their minds, including Hillary.
You'll
We're going
see.
to watch that. We're going to see it. But I just want to say, as someone who has agreed and also disagreed with Boebert in the past, I don't think that was cool. I just don't.
It wasn't.
It wasn't cool. I don't agree with it. Let's move on. But the reaction is interesting.
Of the secretary.
Also, keep in mind that, yeah, the photos went out, but this was always going to be released publicly.
Yeah.
So it's not like there was anything that it's not like there was anything in there that people would not have seen at some point.
That's a good point.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it's not a public hearing, which I always prefer live, guys. You know that, because it's a lot easier to fake with editing than it is live. But
And then it was also a distraction, her doing that.
oh, of course.
The
Of
media
course.
could point to that instead of some of the other stuff that was said.
Yeah, just stick to the facts, stick to the rules of the proceedings. It was unnecessary, guys. It really was. Like,
Secretary,
anyway.
as she is testifying from inside this room, can you please advise me as to whether or not that's permissible and consistent with the rules, particularly given that we have asked for a public hearing. If there are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying, can you please explain how that
I'm
can
done
occur?
with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
We will go off the record.
Oh, for heaven's
So I would like
sake.
to understand how that's permissible.
Before the hearing was,
It doesn't
Excuse
matter. We all are abiding by the same rules.
I will take that down.
Yeah,
So I
well,
would like to take a break at this moment.
yeah,
I'd like to have a
I'm done
conversation.
for now.
Go off the record.
We've said what we have to say on that. I disagree with Boebert putting it out there. At the same time, like, I can acknowledge that it wasn't a particularly flattering picture of Clinton that was released. And as a woman, women typically care more about their appearance in general than men, and they generally care more about quality photos being released of them than men do. I know a particular woman, I'm not going to mention any names, but they lose their entire minds when a picture isn't perfect. When there's a picture that's taken, that's posted, it's like, this is a hideous picture. Again, not going to mention any names, but it is something that maybe that has something to do with it. And maybe it's not nefarious at all. It's just a thing. All right. So jump ahead to the 151. Because apparently her being done means she's going to come back. Okay, here we go. We're going to go 151 to 154.22.
Madam Secretary, just lastly, I want to also thank you for your testimony. And broadly speaking, you've probably been following just recently, and if this week, we've seen, and there's been reports that numerous files are missing from the group of files that have been released. For the record, only about approximately 50% of the total files have likely been released. The other percentage have been withheld for whatever reasons we're not really sure of and don't really understand. It's also been reported by numerous outlets this week that the FBI has removed files that are supposed to be made available to the Congress that include serious allegations of alleged abuse by President Trump, sexual abuse to a minor. Now, these are allegations that we know have been corroborated in other ways, and the media have reported on these, but these files themselves have been removed. Now, we view this as a very serious matter. I've personally looked for these files in the archive manifest that lists which files should be placed there. Those files are no longer there. And we have been calling on the DOJ and the Attorney General to release all of the files. I'm wondering if, in your experience, obviously in the US Senate, as Secretary of State, if you've any response to the behavior of the DOJ in their withholding of critical information and the apparent removal of files that could suggest serious crimes by folks in this administration.
Okay, before she answers, I'm going to go back to my previous point, and I'm going to say, I don't care whose name it is. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if it's Clinton. If there are serious allegations and they are provable, that person needs to pay. Period. End of story. And I don't think anybody should be pulling files out or protecting anyone in power.
Agree.
Congressman, I appreciate your raising this issue, and I appreciated the statement that you put out when this became public knowledge, thanks to investigative reporting, which revealed it. And I think that this behavior by the Justice Department deserves the most thorough investigation that the Congress could carry out.
I agree with that. If that's the case, absolutely.
As I understand the sequence of events, this committee subpoenaed the Justice Department, as well as the Epstein estate, as well as law enforcement officials from prior administrations, as well as my husband and me. the Justice Department refused to comply, which is what led to the passage by the Congress of the Transparency Act, which then was signed into law. And I think from the very beginning, the behavior of the Attorney General and her staff has demonstrated either a gross incompetence, which is bothersome because they are the keepers of information that should be evaluated for law enforcement purposes, or a clear cover-up because they are protecting the president and others. Either
I will say this, it's hard to argue with evidence. If evidence shows that documents were withheld, people need to be held responsible for that shit. Period. There shouldn't be, the only thing in my understanding in these documents, the only thing that should be withheld is victim names.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
But yet we've seen from the get-go redactions that have nothing to do with victims. That's a problem. And I'm not a huge fan of Bondi anymore, dude.
Yeah.
Not at all. I think she has fumbled on multiple occasions. And anyway, so this, we're going to go to 224. Oh, 5. Whoops. All right, and we're going to run this 224.05 to 233.45, and it's Representative Mace that's posing a
This
question.
is fireworks.
Nancy Mace, right? From where's she?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Yeah, she my girl. Boy, I love her.
Yeah,
she is awesome.
Drama.
Afternoon. Secretary Clinton, is your husband someone the committee should investigate?
my husband will be here tomorrow. You'll have a chance to ask him questions.
So my question is your husband is someone this committee should investigate?
Asked and answered.
Apparently you are. You've subpoenaed him. He's going to be here tomorrow.
In your testimony before the break, you discussed why you believe President Trump should testify before our committee due to a, quote, pattern of behavior, end quote. You testified that a pattern of behavior warrants accountability. So I want to make sure I understand your standard correctly. The pattern of behavior you describe includes being held civilly liable, indictments, sexually deviant behavior, correct?
Yes.
In 1998, your husband was found civilly liable for sexual misconduct with Paula Jones and settled for $850,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
By your standard of pattern of behavior, should your husband testify before this committee?
He is testifying tomorrow.
On December 19th, 1998, President Clinton was impeached on charges of perjury and obstruction of justice, which directly related to his extramarital affair with Monica Lewinsky. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your husband was impeached for perjury related to sexual behavior, correct?
I didn't understand what you said.
Your husband was impeached for perjury related to sexual behavior, his sexual behavior.
He was impeached for several reasons, and then was acquitted in the Senate.
And your husband flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 17 to 26 times, correct?
He made several trips with different legs on the trip, as I recall.
But he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane
Yes, he
17 to
did.
26 times.
Mhm.
Were you aware that Secret Service was dropped on some of those flights?
That is not my understanding.
Where they were not on some of those flights?
That is not my
So
understanding.
your understanding is that Secret Service was on all of the flights that President Clinton was on?
That is
with
my
Epstein?
understanding.
By this standard of behavior, multiple credible accusers, including Juanita Broderick, who alleged rape against your husband was disbarred in Arkansas, lost his law license before the Supreme Court, flew on Epstein's plane dozens of times, visited Epstein's island.
That is not true. That is absolutely untrue.
Well, there's documentation in the DOJ files. I'm not sure you're aware, your attorneys have told you, but Jeffrey Epstein told one of the victims to lie to investigators, to lie that Bill Clinton was ever on Epstein Island. I can provide that document to you.
We would like that document, please.
Okay,
Yeah, counsel,
I can do
because actually the files say just the opposite. Epstein himself denied he was.
These are FBI notes from an interview with a victim, and I can get you the victim number and the case number and the files. These are notes from a 302
If
interview.
you'd like those, are you going to provide those now?
I don't, that's not my line of questioning. She brought it up, but I have a
I'm
document. I can
sorry,
get to
you're
you.
making a representation as to the fact.
I didn't enter anything as an exhibit.
but it's factually inaccurate.
No, I can give it to you later. I can go find the document, make copies of it, and give it to you this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Okay. By your standard of pattern of behavior, according to documents released by the Department of Justice, your husband appears in photos in swimming pools, hot tubs, aboard Jeffrey Epstein's private plane with unidentified young women. We came here today and you told this committee that a pattern of behavior demands accountability, correct?
I said that I believe the committee should call anyone who had a substantial pattern and practice of contact with Jeffrey Epstein and his crimes before they came to light.
Does that include your husband?
And after they came to light. You're going to have a chance to question him tomorrow.
So I'll ask you again, by the standard you just set in your own words just now, does this standard apply equally to your husband or only President Trump?
I have said that my husband has been subpoenaed. He will appear. He will answer your questions to the best of his ability, but there is no evidence whatsoever of any connection with Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. And I think that that will be obviously apparent in the questioning.
I will say this, guys, I know we don't have the bill hearing today, but I had to send this picture out, and you guys, I'm sure you've seen it by now, of this disgusting grin on Bill's face when he's looking through the documents relating that's pictures. You can see the picture when he flips the page, and this, it was horrible. I can't wait to,
It's horrible.
yeah, stay with us Saturday.
What makes you so sure of that then? I mean, he's photographed
Objection
with,
is to speculate on something that's not.
Yeah, it is so speculative. I mean, swimming in a pool, sitting in a hot tub, there are millions of people who do that without any improper behavior or certainly committing any crimes. So
With a pedophile?
do you think most of the men are like your husband that did anything wrong by whether being surrounded by young women, giving them massages on Jeffrey's private estate or private plane? Are they all innocent then?
Right.
You know,
Just because-
you are making assumptions in your questions that have not been proven and I don't believe are provable.
Okay. Why did you wait 6 months to have this hearing today or have this testimony?
You know, I've answered that. I thought that given the way that other witnesses who were subpoenaed at the same time were being treated, that there was an unfair treatment of both my husband and myself. And I thought that, especially from my perspective, I had very little, if any, information to provide you, and that I could have done it in a sworn statement and you could have moved on to depose somebody else who might have more information that would be beneficial to your
I have two more
investigation.
questions, then we're going to pass it to Congresswoman Luna. After Jeffrey Epstein was convicted, did it concern you at all that you had taken a substantial amount of money from Jeffrey Epstein?
That's an inappropriate assumption. I did not take a substantial amount of money from Jeffrey Epstein. So far as I know, Jeffrey Epstein contributed to the joint committee that was supporting my Senate race.
Which was how much?
I believe I was told $20,000.
You don't consider $20,000 substantial?
I do not consider it relevant to me because I have no recollection that I ever knew that he gave any money to
So
the
you
joint
didn't talk
committee.
to your donors that gave $20,000 to your campaign?
My understanding of the rules back then is that there was no coordination between the committee and the campaign. So no, I have no recollection.
But that doesn't
of
mean you
knowing
can't speak to your donors. That doesn't prohibit, the law does not prohibit you speaking to
But
donors.
I didn't know he was a donor. As far as I knew, he was not a donor until I learned this in
Did it
preparation
concern you at
for
all
the
that Ghislaine
testimony.
Maxwell was heavily involved with people you knew and were close to?
I knew people that I knew her. Yes, that's true.
And you just shrugged, you didn't want to look into it or
You know,
have any
nobody,
question
you know,
about it?
until her crimes were revealed and she was indicted and tried and convicted, I don't think people knew very much about at all.
And
what
then
she
how do
was
you know
doing.
Howard Lutnick?
I know Howard Lutnick because when I was senator on 9/11, the firm he headed, Cantor Fitzgerald, suffered the greatest loss of life. As I recall, something like 650 of his employees were murdered by terrorists that day. Howard Lutnick missed being a victim because he was delayed dropping
know
his
that. I
child
asked
off
him.
to
You know,
kindergarten. You asked the question.
Isn't he was Lutnick the one that got the massive payout for the insurance for 9/11, or was that somebody else who actually had the insurance on the
That
building?
might be somebody else.
Okay. Here's the thing, man. There's a lot of names. There's a lot of moving parts. So Lutnick just happened to work at Cantor Fitzgerald. Was he the boss?
I think he was the boss.
I think he was the boss. And he just, again, coincidentally wasn't there. Make of that what you will.
Question. I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're going to.
This was what I spent
You're
my
going to yell at me.
time doing.
I'm a
I
survivor
spent
trying to look out for other survivors, trying to.
and
get
I
them
was
out of it.
taking care
You
of
waited
the
6
people
months
who
to get
lost
here today.
3,000
6 months,
lives
and now you're being
at World
defiant
Trade
and
Center.
indignant today.
You asked me
I have
about
met
Howard
with
Lutnick.
Epstein survivors. I'm a survivor myself. You have emails. You've denied that Jeffrey Epstein, that you tried to get Jeffrey Epstein to give money to you.
I did
but
not.
Howard Lutnick was
If you
used
have
to
an
get
email
money.
with me asking Jeffrey
I
Epstein
have
for
an
money,
email from Howard Lutnick sending it to
What's the
Jeffrey
question?
Epstein and his
What's the-
people to
I
raise
don't-
money for
I don't
you
know
for
about-
an event, an intimate event for you at his offices
Well,
at Cantor Fitzgerald. You're
look,
going to sit
if
here
you-
today.
So hold on. I just want to make sure I understand, because I didn't pay attention to politics very much, especially like Senate and all this stuff pre 9/11. So I just want people to understand. So Howard Lutnick at the time was in the process of asking people for money for Hillary Clinton's Senate race. That's what they're saying. So he was a Clinton person back at the 9/11 era, right? That's how it sounds. You checking into that, Shawn?
I am. I guess he did get money.
So he asked Epstein for money. Epstein contributed $20,000 to Clinton, right? All around 9/11.
He did get $135 million.
135 million. Why are they saying 20,000?
Oh, I meant that's how much he contributed, but I mean he got insurance money.
Okay. So the insurance money. Now I'm talking about, like, they paid out like a ridiculous amount of money for the World Trade Center. So Lutnick was the one that collected that insurance money.
Yes.
That is interesting, ladies
That
and
is
gentlemen.
interesting.
It's very interesting. Isn't he part of the Trump administration
He
now?
is.
What does he do?
He is the, I want to say, what does he do? He's the
He's some kind of secretary, right?
Treasury. I think he's Treasury.
Secretary of Commerce, right?
Oh, Commerce. Okay.
Yeah. I think so. I think Secretary of Commerce.
Yep.
Huh. Well, that is certainly interesting. And again, make of that what you will. You guys are smart, man. I'm not going to tell you what to think. You guys will figure it out before I do, I'm sure.
if you would let me
and
finish.
obfuscate and say to this committee, you didn't try to get money from Jeffrey
I
Epstein
didn't.
when
I
there was
didn't.
an intimate event in an email that Howard Lutnick emailed to Epstein's people and Epstein to get him to come to your intimate event at Cantor Fitzgerald, a very small event. And so I'm not going to public. You want to yell at me? That's fine, but I'll yell right back.
Well,
okay? I am looking out for
it's very-
survivors. I'm doing a job that you would not do.
Yeah,
if you-
Is this Luna or is this Mace?
It's
Mace?
Mace.
She don't play, dude. Like
He doesn't.
I know I look like a teenager. Do the little heart, right? No, Mace is awesome though. She's a firebrand.
to do as Secretary of State. Thank you, and I yield back to
No,
Congresswoman.
I'm going to finish answering the question, which I have a right to do. I am very sympathetic to your personal situation. I have read about it. I have seen you testify or speak on the floor about it. And I very much sympathize with not only what you went through, but appreciate your effort to stand up for survivors. I was a senator representing the people who were murdered on 9/11. Nobody lost more people than Howard Lutnick. You can say whatever you want. You can call him and have him appear before the committee. But I knew him. I knew him as the man who lost the employees that he knew intimately, including his brother.
And he was a
So
good
I
between
work-
you and
Let
Jeffrey
her finish
Epstein
her
raising
answer,
money
please.
for you.
Let her finish her
You
answer.
know what? If you don't want to hear what emotionally affected me, that's fine. But that's why I know Howard Lutnick. I went to the memorial service every 9/11 after the formal service was
I
held.
see what you're
with
doing here.
all-
and your
Yeah,
office
with
is
all
Trump
of his
Christians. He was
people,
go-between
the
between
families.
you and Jeffrey Epstein raising money. For
Well,
Right.
you know, Howard Lutnick and I did
Thank
work
you. I will
together
now yield
because
to
we had a
Congressman
lot of
Warner.
victims
Thank you.
to take care of, and we worked together to rebuild downtown Manhattan. That is how I know Howard Lutnick.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there. I remember I don't have time to watch all of Trump's press appearances and his little stuff, right? I don't think anybody does.
No.
The man has like more energy than anything I've ever seen in my life. I'm starting to wonder if he's even human. Like whatever he takes, I want some. Anyway, I do remember a specific clip of him and Howard Lutnick behind him, and Trump is saying something and this weird grin on Lutnick's face. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
I do not. I'll
Look,
have to look that up.
you have to look. It was unsettling. It was unsettling.
What was Trump like, what's wrong with you?
No, the guy was in like kind of behind him and to the side, and it was a very somber event.
Oh.
And there was just this weird freaking smile on Lutnick's face. And ever since that, I saw that and I'm like, ew. I've been very turned off from him since then. But I don't know the parameters. I'm talking out of context. Make sure you guys look it up and learn, because I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're.
Very, very odd. Very, very odd. Okay, so let's see here. Where are we at? Okay, so we're gonna jump ahead to 238.30. Okay, and we got 238.30 to 241.18, and the note that I have is intelligence ties.
Secretary Clinton, this was actually out of an FBI briefing document when Epstein was in his New York trial. If you can look at the top left, the individual photo, who is that individual?
I can't tell. It's such a small, blurry picture.
Okay. For those that want to pull up the file, the photos of Jeffrey Epstein, this is actually a passport that was given. The individual's name is Marcus Robert Fortinelli. Do you think that this is a sign or a telltale sign of intelligence operations and pseudonyms?
I can't speculate. I don't know.
Okay. Victims have stated to this committee, both Democrats and Republicans, that during Epstein's time, during his day camp jail is what I'll call it, that he was also in active communication with Bush's CIA director. They also had stated that he had active ties to Russia, Israel, and Iran. Given your status, not just as the First Lady, but also in your secretary position, have you ever been targeted by any of these countries as a means of a foreign intelligence gathering operation? Are you aware of potential vulnerabilities?
Yeah, I was targeted by Russia in the 2016 campaign. I mean, I think that's pretty well known.
What about Israel or Iran?
I don't know about either Israel or Iran.
Okay. Do you believe that Epstein was running potentially a honeypot operation with intelligence gathering operations to collect information on high-profile individuals, both Democrat and Republican, in the United States, in an effort to sway our foreign policies? Is it possible?
I have no direct knowledge, but I think it's one of the areas your committee should investigate.
Do you think it's possible?
Well, it's certainly possible. It's a tried and true technique of certain intelligence agencies.
Do you believe that he was using honeypots in an effort to?
I can't speculate. I don't know.
Okay. And on the topic of transparency, Secretary, were you ever denied access, or did you ever inquire on the topic of UAP or Gilgamesh in your official or personal capacity, and why?
I was never denied access because I never asked for access.
Okay. In the efforts of having a transparent government and restoring.
What's Gilgamesh? Did you hear that?
No, I didn't.
Hold on. It's what?
It's supposedly a rumor why we went to war in the Middle East was to get
Oh.
artifacts related to Gilgamesh.
Okay, so allegedly, off camera here, Gilgamesh refers to the belief that we went to war in the Middle East in order to secure artifacts
To stop his
Oh.
return or something.
Okay, I've heard that.
and stop the spread of what?
His return.
Stop the spread of Gilgamesh's return?
Uh-huh.
Who the fuck is Gilgamesh?
Hold on, I'll find it.
Okay, this is taking a turn, guys.
Yeah.
So, and just so you guys know, she answered, no, I wasn't denied access because I never inquired.
Which is a weird answer.
It is a weird answer. She didn't ask what that means.
No.
And look, for everything else aside, she was the first lady and then she was the Secretary of State. So
And-
she had a high ass security clearance.
And senator from New York.
Yeah, and she was also a senator from New York. So she knew some stuff. So I just heard UAP / Gilgamesh, and I'm like,
I heard UAP, but I didn't
It's
know.
a WikiLeaks article on Project Gilgamesh.
okay, so off camera here, we got a WikiLeaks article regarding Project Gilgamesh.
The Gilgamesh Project.
The Gilgamesh Project.
refers to modern scientific and technological initiatives aimed at treating death as a technical solvable problem.
Okay, it aims at treating death as a solvable problem. In other words, immortality. Interesting.
It is.
Interesting. And so
It's an Alex Jones thing.
okay, it's an Alex Jones thing, allegedly. But you know what? Here, I'm just going to say this about Alex Jones. He's right a lot. Not 100%, but he's right a lot.
Some of the time.
Some of the time.
Eh,
Let's
I
just
still
say,
think he's
how about
kinda
this? There are underlying truths in the crazy shit he says. How about that?
He needs to have some.
There's a kernel of truth in the.
I think he needs some medicine.
Yeah. Look, we're not going to go down there.
He should be on medicine, but he has every right to say what he wants to say.
And I will agree with that.
Yes,
He has
yes.
100% has the right to say whatever he wants to say. And those people who want to watch him, like I said, I find here's the thing, right? The gay frogs. Everybody loves that meme, right? Everybody loves the little song.
Yes.
I love it. I've watched it. It's hilarious.
If you haven't seen it, check it out.
If you haven't seen it, look up Gay Frogs Remix, right?
I think almost everybody's.
I think everybody, if you haven't seen it, you're missing out. But the point, there's something to it. Those chemicals actually do what he claims. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. And
I thought it was just a joke.
no, scientific research is proving him right.
Oh,
That's what I mean. The crazy off the wall stuff that he says
I didn't.
has a kernel of truth in it.
All right, I'll have to look into this.
Yeah, see, you thought you'd dismiss all that shit, but there's a kernel of truth in there. Look it up. They're proving him correct. It actually does have a negative effect on the sexuality of frogs in particular, but not just frogs.
And
So
they also went to war to find the tomb of Gilgamesh.
okay, the claim is that they went to war to find the tomb of Gilgamesh,
Huh.
which the tomb of Gilgamesh. We're getting.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to put a tinfoil hat warning.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. How about this,
All right.
guys? That's what it means. If you guys want to, dig into it yourself. Otherwise, I'm gonna learn what I can about this and do a show about this whole Gilgamesh thing.
We're busy.
Because wow, holy cow, this is quite a
That took a turn.
that definitely took a turn. And now I lost my glasses.
Uh-oh.
I lost my glasses.
What are
I
you
can't
looking
see. All right, I'm gonna do the best I can until I find them. All right, so
What should they? Oh, I see him.
do you?
Right
They
there.
fall? There we go. Thank you, Shawn.
You're
Coming in
welcome.
clutch again. All right. Oh my God. All right. So
Faith within our
Here, I'm
country.
gonna back it up
in
so
a
you guys
never
can hear.
asked capacity and why.
I was never denied.
Or Gilgamesh and your official secretary. Were
Listen.
you ever denied access, or did you ever inquire on the topic of UAP or Gilgamesh in your official or personal capacity and why?
Gilgamesh.
Okay.
It's unlike UAP, or she didn't say slash, she said or Gilgamesh.
And restoring faith within our country. Do you believe that the American people deserve access to those topics?
I do, subject to any national security implications.
Interesting how she's shaking her head. By the way, those of you who may or may not study body language, when you shake your head while replying in the affirmative, it means you actually are lying and believe the opposite. Not always.
I think the information should be made available. I think that's been ordered, or at least I read that it had been ordered.
And lastly, before I yield my time, Chairman Comer, do you believe that you were personally a target of an intelligence gathering operation specifically pertaining to Ghislaine Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein?
I have no reason to believe that. I don't have any information.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Right. Okay. Jump ahead. 251-56. Okay, and this goes 253-25.
To their ability.
Okay. You also asserted, and if I get this wrong, please let me know, that, or at least insinuated that President Trump was closer to Epstein than your husband. Socially.
I think there's an enormous amount of evidence that goes back many, many years demonstrating their relationship.
Okay. Do you know how many times Jeffrey Epstein visited the Trump 45 White House?
I do not know.
By all accounts and evidence, 0.
0.
And how many times did he visit the Clinton White House?
I don't know.
It was 17 times.
17.
How much?
There's that number again. 17. I'm just going to say this. You guys, by all means, do whatever you want. What letter of the alphabet is 17th, right? I'm just saying there's been a lot of the number 17 appearing. Now, number theory states that any number you focus on, you're going to notice, right? But it's just interesting. It's just interesting. File it under the interesting coincidence category for now.
Did Jeffrey Epstein ever donate to Donald Trump politically?
I have no idea.
There was 0. But we have established that he donated to either you or your husband or your committee's 21 grand. Not to agree?
I have no information that is personally based about their relationship.
Jeffrey Epstein donated $35,000 to foundations. One was a $10,000 donation to the White House Historical Society in 93 when the Clintons, your family, was in the White House. He donated, and then there was that 2006 donation for 25, or 2006 donation to the Clinton Foundation. He's donated similar to the Trump White House, never, no foundations either. How many pages of the Epstein files were released by the Oversight Committee in 2021 to 23 when the Democrats were in the majority?
I have no idea.
It was 0.
0. Yeah. So we're constantly going to hear the reasons for that are because a judge didn't order it yet, and a judge had blocked it, and this and that. When the Democrats were in power, they absolutely had the power to make the Epstein files released to the public. They chose not to for whatever reason. So at the same time, Trump made a big deal out of these files, and I don't like the way he's handling it now. Okay, so we're going to 312.
I think that's over.
46. We're going to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew.
Okay.
And I'm
Secretary Clinton, did Miss Maxwell's nephew, Mr. Alexander Gerazi, I may be saying that wrong, work for your 2008 campaign?
As I said earlier, he volunteered for my campaign. He did a good job. My campaign staff hired him. He was an excellent employee. And then he had a very relevant educational background and went to work in the State Department.
And Secretary Clinton, was Miss Maxwell.
So Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew worked in the Clinton State Department or the Obama State Department?
Actually, it would be the Obama.
Well, 08 would be.
But Hillary, she was Secretary of State.
Yeah, and so this guy worked under her Yeah, the Obama administration with her as Secretary of State.
And he didn't have much experience in foreign affairs too. Just it gets.
Nephew, Mr. Alexander Girassi, hired by the State Department shortly after you became Secretary of State.
Yes, he was.
And Secretary Clinton, by all accounts at this time of his hiring, Mr. Alexander Girassi had limited foreign policy experience. Was he hired as a favor for Mrs. Maxwell?
Not at all. I had no idea that he was related to her, and I have
please.
absolutely no recollection or reason to believe that she was at all involved.
Well,
Listen, I'm going to tell you, as someone who has been involved in political circles, you know when people are related. You learn that shit real quick. Real quick, because if you have a positive opinion of them, that's going to affect your opinion of this person. If you have a negative opinion of them, that's going to affect your opinion of them, and they have to overcome that. I'm telling you, bitch knows. No, that is absolutely a lie. Period. End of story. Absolutely. Okay, so anyway, I can't even.
People that I represent, and I think our country cares about most out of this whole thing, is that what can we learn so we can prevent people committing human trafficking in our country and the world? I think that's what we all care about. We care about that. And then how did someone with such egregious behavior penetrate the highest level of government? Are world leaders compromised? Are American politicians compromised?
Yes.
As you read the Epstein files and read the reports, overwhelmingly, Epstein donated more to Democrats by far than he did Republicans. Are you served as Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013? Is that correct?
That's correct.
The State Department leads the United States efforts to globally combat human and sex trafficking. Is that a fair characterization?
It is the responsibility of the State Department to try to hold countries accountable through our annual report and to work with countries to try to encourage them to improve their laws and their enforcement.
That's wild, dude. Like, I didn't even know that
No, I didn't know that until I
her
saw
nephew
this, too.
worked. That certainly explains Chelsea's wedding, doesn't it? And that was when? What was the year of Chelsea's wedding? Do you
I
remember?
think she got married in I want to say 2012. I should look it up.
Yeah. I'm just curious because a timeline, in my opinion, timelines are critically important, right? Show you when things happened and what was going on at the time. So
2010.
What was 2010?
So 2010. So, okay. I just want to point this out, right? So 2008, Obama wins, right? 2009, he's sworn into office.
She's Secretary of
She's
State.
made Secretary of State. This guy who worked for her campaign is now suddenly working in the State Department with a paid position, right? Who had no experience with that kind of stuff prior to, okay, or limited, right? Then suddenly in 2010, Ghislaine Maxwell attends Chelsea's wedding, but she was just a +1, guys. She was just a +1, guys. I didn't know her. Bruh, come on, man. All right, so I'm gonna have to find that. I think it's Flava Flav that was like, "Come on, man." Have you seen that?
Yeah,
that clip? Yeah, dude. All right, 329. 12. Okay, so this is apparently regarding UFOs, UAPs, and Chelsea's wedding. Together?
No.
Was there a UFO at Chelsea's wedding? Dude, that would be wild. I'm just kidding.
No, I meant like different.
It is 4:17 in the afternoon. Mr. Burleson has a few questions for you.
So I'm going to begin with some lighthearted, different questions. And you're welcome to ignore them or if you want to, but while I have you here, I just have to ask. So when your husband was president, it was Lawrence Rockefeller had an effort to try to disclose UFOs, UAPs. When you were running for president, John Podesta publicly stated that you would disclose these files if given the chance, if you had been president. Are you pleased to see that these files may be disclosed finally?
I am pleased. As I say, I think they have to be carefully scrutinized so that no national security information is disclosed. But this is an issue of real importance to so many people. And
What?
Her shoulder keeps.
Yeah, I noticed that little shrug. It's been a while since I've watched Lie to Me, so I don't remember all the things. But great program, by the way. What?
Quit.
She needs to put a bra on.
Oh,
I think whatever can be disclosed should be disclosed.
why are you looking there?
I'm trying.
Not Shawn, but off-camera statement made was she needs to put a bra on. I'm like, why are you looking there?
Anyway, back to the
Excuse me, hold on. We'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. Here we go.
Was there a program that specifically that was referencing that you were aware of?
I was not. As you mentioned, John Podesta, who was one of my advisors, was deeply interested in the issue. And if I had been elected, I certainly would have listened to his advice.
Well, thank you for indulgence on that. As you know, Alexander Acosta, who gave Epstein the 2009 plea deal, he said, whenever he was asked, that he belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. Were you, and I think you've answered this before, but if you could answer more directly, were you or anyone in the Obama administration, through your role in the State Department or even afterwards in the Clinton Foundation, ever briefed on Epstein having any U.S. intelligence ties?
I was not.
Were you ever briefed of him having any foreign intelligence ties?
I was not.
Okay. Epstein filed a FOIA request in 2011 seeking any CIA records about himself. That would have been during your time as Secretary of State. Through your role, were you made aware of that FOIA request?
I was not.
Okay.
Was it ever responded to?
That's a good question.
I know nothing about it.
It is a good question.
They haven't responded to us on our FOIA requests. So.
Yeah.
In 2014, Epstein met with William Burns, who was then a senior State Department official and later a CIA director.
Excuse me, could you say what year that was again?
In 2014.
In 2014, he met with William Burns.
Mm-hmm. Epstein met with William Burns. As the Secretary of State at that time, were you aware of that meeting?
I wasn't Secretary of State in 2014.
Okay. Were you aware of the meeting
I was
with
not.
Mr. Burns? Okay. And finally, Ghislaine Maxwell's father was Robert Maxwell, who was widely reported as being Mossad or MI6 intelligence asset. Did in any of your conversations with Maxwell or people connected to her, did they ever mention Robert Maxwell's intelligence background or any ongoing foreign or domestic intelligence connections through your conversations or interactions?
I have never talked to anybody about whether that is true or not. I don't know.
Were you aware that when Maxwell attended your wedding, she was skipping a court-ordered deposition in the Epstein victim's civil lawsuit?
Excuse me, do you mean her wedding or do you mean her daughter's wedding?
Your daughter's wedding. I'm sorry. When she attended your daughter's wedding, were you aware that she was skipping a court-ordered?
Yeah,
I had no idea. I don't know anything about that.
Is this the first time you're hearing that?
It is the first time I'm hearing that.
But at the time she was going.
That is very, very interesting. So instead of appearing in court, she went to Chelsea's wedding. Just as a +1, guys. Just as a +1. All right. We're going to power through this because Shawn's got to go. He has real life stuff to do. He's an important guy. To more than just us. Let's see. Very important here. Here we go.
Ms. Clinton, Madam Secretary, while we sit on the record today, are you under oath?
I am.
Okay. Have you ever lied while being under oath?
I have not.
Have you ever lied in a deposition?
Huma Abedin.
I have not.
Okay, thank you. Have you ever transmitted any information to Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell about the United States government?
I have not.
As has been mentioned many times here today, Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane at least 26 times, multiple international trips from 2002 to 2003, often with Maxwell. When and how did you first learn of these trips, and did you discuss them or review them with him prior to taking the trips?
It's a compound question. I'm going to object to the latter part of it and instruct her not to answer on the grounds of
when and how did
marital-
you learn of these first trips?
I don't recall how I learned about them. I knew that he was traveling on a number of different planes owned by a number of different people. And I don't recollect having conversations about the planes. We talked about the work. We talked about the meetings that he had. We talked about his efforts to try to persuade countries to invest in low-cost AIDS
Did you discuss who he would be traveling with?
I did not. I don't have any recollection of that.
Ms. Clinton, when did you first learn that your husband was spending time extensively with a registered sex offender?
He did not. After he was convicted years after Bill stopped having any.
Were there any activities that raised any red flags to think that he could be charged of sex crimes during the time?
Are you
that
asking if
Clinton,
she has awareness?
Yes.
Of Jeffrey Epstein?
Of any red flags being brought to your awareness, to your family's awareness, while your husband was spending time with Jeffrey Epstein?
I have no recollection of anyone bringing any red flags to me.
So have any of the victims of Epstein or Maxwell ever reached out to you in any way?
I don't recall that.
You do not recall any reason a victim may have reached out to you or your counsel?
Excuse me, your question was, does she recall whether or not any victim reached out to her? And she said she did not have an awareness of that.
Moving on, Ms. Clinton, are you aware of anyone ever telling your husband that they had damaging information about him that they would release?
I have no awareness of that.
Did Epstein ever ask you or?
I just want to draw your attention to her eyes and the shift when that question was asked. Did you see that?
I didn't.
Just real quick. Look at her body language, look at her eyes.
Husband that they had damaging information about him that they would release?
I have no awareness of that.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's all I'm gonna say.
interesting.
Interesting.
Did Epstein ever ask you or Mr. Clinton for any favors of any kind?
I never talked to Jeffrey Epstein.
Did Maxwell ever ask you or Mr. Clinton for favors of any kind?
She did not ask me.
Yeah.
Did Epstein have any connection to or association with the Clinton Foundation?
There's been the allegation that he did, but I don't have any factual basis for knowing one way or the other.
Okay, and we have discussed today the small amounts donated historically, and the $20,000 to your campaign, the 1999 Senate campaign, $25,000 via affiliate.
Could you state for the record, it was not to the campaign, so if you wouldn't mind just stating
$20,000 to Hillary's 1999 Senate campaign?
No, it was a joint. It was a joint.
Okay.
State campaign.
Joint campaign. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Fun.
Okay, so we have talked about those connections. In past public statements, as in 2017 speeches and interviews, you described Pizzagate as a baseless conspiracy theory, alleging you and others ran a child sex trafficking ring from a Washington pizzeria basement.
I just want to stop really briefly here. You don't have to listen to the right anymore on this whole Pizzagate thing. Bill Maher himself is going out there and saying, you might want to apologize to your conspiracy theory friends because all this shit is real. Have you seen that?
I have not.
He went off on Lauren Boebert and said nobody's eating things and doing things. The Democrats aren't. So he backtracked a little.
No, so now he's backtracked, but there's a clip out there of
Really?
Bill Maher and guys, the FBI themselves, but prior to Trump or anything Trump-like, laid all this language out. These people are not talking about food. They're not talking about normal food. These are code words. What they mean, no one can say definitively without the code book that they use. But there's no way they're talking about dominoes, dude. No way. No way.
Have you reviewed any 2025, 2026 Epstein files that were released that you believe reference or relate to those specific 2016 claims regarding the Podesta emails, Comet Ping Pong, pizza used as code possibly?
I'm sorry, does
You're
this
asking
relate?
her about whether
Excuse me.
she's reviewed emails
In the Epstein files.
which relate to the wacky Pizzagate
You
scandal.
could characterize it however you want. I just would like to know if she's familiar with any of them.
So
She's
excuse me,
commented-
your question is about whether or not she has reviewed any emails in the Epstein release files
Mhm.
about Pizzagate.
Correct.
Pizzagate was totally made up. It was an outrageous allegation that ended up hurting a number of people, that caused a deranged young man to show up with his assault rifle and shoot up a local pizzeria. I can't believe you're even referencing it. You should be.
There are connections to the language. I'm
Well,
not
the
talking
QAnon
about-
people believe there are. So
I don't know what QAnon
have at
people
it.
believe.
Have at it.
But you've accused certain parties, and I think even right now today, of promoting slow walking or information in ways that fuels conspiracies. In your view, did any Epstein Maxwell related investigations or file handling pre or post 2019 contribute to or intersect with the spread of Pizzagate style theories about Democrat figures?
Objection.
I have
Calls
no
for
way of answering. That is the
possible
most
speculation.
ridiculously.
Have you or your representatives identified any Epstein file content that has been misinterpreted online to revive those claims? And what steps, if any, have you taken to clarify?
Again, object on the ground of
I think that this is all very
speculation.
reasonable.
Well, first of all, I don't follow the crazy conspiracy stories that are online.
I just want to pause briefly. You notice she didn't say theory. She said crazy conspiracy stories.
That is true.
It may mean nothing.
I regret that anybody does. I find it
I'm sure you do.
quite sad, but also disturbing that people would believe some of what is put forth, like Pizzagate. So I have taken no steps to review anything
Do you think
that might
pizza-
have any connection to something which I think is totally bogus.
John Podesta, your 2016 campaign chair, appears in some Epstein file contexts. Social
dude.
overlaps are mentions. Were you aware of any of the Podesta related communications in the released files?
Can you
that
please provide a
And I just want to point out that all of these Podesta emails came out in WikiLeaks years and years and years ago.
Before
So
this.
way before any of this.
examples or the evidence that you would like us to review or the exhibits that reflect that in
I
order
can
for
I
her
can
to
get
be able to
I
do
can get
that?
some
I mean,
exhibits
somebody
and pause
started
this
with
question
questions
Speak to
in the
that when you
meantime.
provide those.
I will get those and I will skip that question
The
until
Congresswoman
we can.
asked generally if she's aware.
Generally, she is asking if she's aware of specific information that is in the files that you all are relying on. Please provide the witness with
If your
copies of that
client
materials.
doesn't know or has no recollection, she's welcome to state so.
We're also welcome to actually see the information that you're speaking
And
to.
again, the representative is asking general.
I mean,
general
really,
questions.
I mean, I expected a lot of interesting questions today, but Pizzagate was not on my list.
That's okay. We're asking all sorts of things here.
You certainly are. You certainly are.
We're just trying to get the truth out to the American people.
Well, that
and
would
get
be
some clarity.
very helpful.
Are you aware of any files that were
Seriously.
on Anthony Weiner's laptop in a folder that was titled insurance, life insurance, with a zip file titled
Excuse me,
frazzled?
I'd like the chairman's
This is
ru- no,
way
I'd like
outside
the
the
chairman's
scope.
ruling.
Now, what's really wild is the reaction from the lawyers and her. It sounds like these lawyers already have heard this term and already know what it refers to. Otherwise, they would be like, huh? I'm just saying. I have a lot more to say about this, but we're going to keep it short and sweet because Shawn's got to bail.
Is this within the scope? Is this within the scope, Mr. Chairman?
If the chairman rules that it's not within the scope, I
Mr.
have
Chairman,
other
based on what you said in the public hearing, is this within the scope?
We can go off the record for a moment. to
Mr.
confirm.
Chairman, is this within the scope?
We'll go
Off the record and can talk.
Then it comes back.
It's going to come back. All right.
Wait like 10 seconds.
Do not recall meeting Jeff.
We'll go back on the record.
Madam Clinton, you have stated that you do not recall meeting Jeffrey Epstein and have no links to him. Have you reviewed any photos, emails, or records from the released Epstein files that might refresh your recollection of any encounter, event, or introduction involving him?
Excuse me, before, you are stating that with respect to her, an interview, or with respect to what she has stated here today?
I'm asking in general, has anything that you have viewed since the release of the Epstein files brought any sort of recollection of an encounter with Epstein?
Not that I recall.
Okay. So once again, I never talked to him. I never met him. Blah, blah, blah. All right. We're going to jump ahead. For 1502.
All right. All right. So this will be the majority exhibit number 19. And you have not reviewed this document. Have you seen this document before?
I've never seen the document before.
This is the first time you're ever seeing this document. Earlier today, in my second round, I was asking questions, and I made mention that about Bill Clinton, President Clinton's visits to Epstein Island, and that a possible cover-up about those visits. And I was called a liar, I believe, by somebody on the other side of this table.
Yep.
And so I told you,
I don't think I did
that I would provide this document and go over it with you. This is an interview by the FBI of an Epstein victim. It is 3501.144-032. And on page 8, which I'll give back to you, or I can read it to you. I'll give it this back. If you can read the last sentence.
Would you please read?
I'm not interested in reading something. I have no idea what it is. If you want to read it, go right ahead.
Okay, I'll read it. I was called a liar over this. So this particular.
Well, I just want to point out that they asked for this. Well, can you give us the document? Can you show us proof? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, we don't want to read it.
Victim stated on the record in an interview with the FBI, Epstein wanted blank, the name of victim number 1, to say that blank, victim number 2, was a liar and that President Bill Clinton was never on Epstein Island. So I stated earlier for the record that Epstein directed victims to lie about your husband's visits to Epstein Island. I was called a liar. This is the document.
That is not accurate. The record will reflect, and the court reporter can read it back with respect to whether or not President Clinton had ever been on Epstein Island. If somebody had represented that would not be accurate.
So I said that Jeffrey Epstein directed that Jeffrey Epstein directed this victim to state a lie about Bill Clinton never visiting the island. Now on page 7, for the record, which I know you've never seen, there's a fully redacted paragraph, and that fully redacted paragraph in the unredacted files of the DOJ reveal that President Clinton, it redacts his name, and it also discusses notepads that the victim wrote down in phone calls with Jeffrey Epstein because she was told to lie about another victim and lie about Bill Clinton's visits to Epstein Island. I don't know why this information is redacted. And also the attachments in this file, by the way, there were notes. You cannot see those at the DOJ. They are still redacted, which is the reason we're here today. We want to get to the bottom of this and get the truth. My next question is...
Excuse me, was there a question?
Okay. So this is a lot. And I, once again, will state, I think with the exception of victim names and identities, everything else should be unredacted. I don't care whose name appears in it. I don't care what connection they have. The American people deserve to know. All right, last clip, 423:58 to 427:49. And it's entitled, Was Epstein a Spy?
If you're following this, and I'm sure you are, in Britain with the arrest of Prince Andrew and the former ambassador to the British ambassador to the United States, they were arrested, it's my understanding, not for sex crimes, but for potential treason or potential violation of national security protocol. one of the things that a lot of people, and you may call it conspiracy theories or whatever, but I believe I've seen it on CNN, I've seen it on Fox, I've seen it in the Washington Post, the New York Times. There's a lot of speculation that he may have been an asset. And I know several questions have been asked about that today. And you've given a lot of advice for the committee on how we can move forward. And our objective is to get the transparency to the American people, to get the truth to the American people. And by the documents being released, the estate documents that we subpoenaed, as well as the DOJ documents, we're already seeing many powerful men and women held accountable. So I feel like this investigation is moving in the right direction. But one of the things where we're stumped is how do we determine whether or not Epstein was a spy, whether or not Epstein was trading secrets? Because he had people on the inside, especially in the Obama administration. We're not saying you, but the Obama's former counsel that then went to Goldman Sachs. Where do we go in this investigation to try to determine whether or not he was an asset?
You know, Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate that question. And I can't say that about many of the questions, but I really do appreciate that question. And I think it's an absolutely essential question for you to try to examine and find answers for. And I think you said that you had either document requests or maybe even a subpoena to the CIA. I would also include the DNI. I would include, any counterintelligence or appropriate unit within the Justice Department. I think you have to cast a wide net. And now that, as you describe, the government in the UK is investigating both Andrew Mountbatten and Peter Mendelsohn, maybe they would cooperate with you in their investigation. And maybe, you could reach out to the intelligence agencies of other countries that you're looking at. Israel has been mentioned. Perhaps that is one to be. I don't think Iran is going to cooperate, but I think, or Russia, but I think you could certainly go to the UK and go to Israel and see if they would be at all helpful to you.
In your experience as Secretary of State, and I know you were First Lady, but you were more active, in my opinion, than most First Ladies in the President Clinton's administration. Does he exhibit characteristics? Is there a pattern that would lead you and your expertise to believe that he was an asset?
Well, there certainly is in the files, and I do commend you for getting as much released as you can. I hope you can get it all released. Hints of relationships with powerful foreign leaders, pictures, emails, meetings. He was clearly somebody who traded off of information.
Exactly.
Not just foreign, but domestic relationships as well. Like, for example, Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew working for Clinton. This is just, the whole thing is disturbing, and it shows there's a different, guys, child predators are disgusting and they should be publicly executed, in my opinion. It's just that simple, period. But this just goes to show the difference, because damn good, we see it. Pay attention to the FBI's human trafficking arrests. Regular people, you go to jail for that shit. Rightly so.
Yeah.
Rightly so. Let me be perfectly clear. But powerful people don't. We've seen it countless times. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen, I'm sure you have, but go look again at Andrew's face in his arrest photo.
I saw that.
The sheer terror on his face, because finally, someone is holding these POSs to account. And I'm just going to say, who's president right now? If we don't see some perp walks, I'm going to be pissed. It's just that simple. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. Remember, hopefully Saturday we're gonna get Billy Boy and his. Go look at that picture, man. It's disgusting of that grin on his face. All right. We're out. We'll see you again real soon. God bless you. God bless Indiana. And God bless the United States of America. See y'all soon.